Zeke, Shio, and Reese. It is game 3 of a trio event. Of course, this is FNCS Trios. I am Sancho S alongside with Sundown, bringing you all the action and all the drama that we love to see it. You'd love to see people pop off. You'd love to see the clutches. And that is what I really like to see is the lighthouse, because the light is beaming down. And who's going to be the one that gets to shine, though, going forward? That's going to be interesting to see, as we're seeing a lot of people in that leaderboard who are having the performance. It's interesting, so Sundown, I got to say, is that the people that needed to get a big-time performance to get in that top 15 that have not yet to qualify, they're actually doing it. They're actually doing it, and they're competing here today.
And the benefit, we've kind of talked about the double-edged sword of the consistency performance and relying on having a decent game every single game, which sounds relatively easy, right? Well, not when you're playing against the very, very best of the best in the largest and what I would argue is the most competitive region in Fortnite. To have a consistent amount of placement points in each one of your matches is very difficult to do. But the benefit of that is all of a sudden now that we're in match number 9, if you've already done that in the first 8 matches, it becomes that much harder for a bad game to push you out. Because like we saw Left Eye and Co., they were able to rack up a number of eliminations and some placement points there at the end as well. And every single time they do that, they push themselves that much farther above that top 15 threshold.
The question is, 4ZR's trio, let me plant the seed here. 4ZR's trio lands here. This is their domain. Sweaty Sands. They did it in week 1 and week 2. Andalex, Squeezy, and Yanis, they had to give this up going into the battles because, one, they didn't qualify for week 1. And the interesting thing is who's going to win this battle in the heats. You know, we already seen battles all across the board. I mean, this is going to be a tough one, Sundown, to pick because we just seen how big and important Sweaty Sands can be for European trios. It's like the hot spot.
So I think the difference is that for ZR, Nate, and Kezix, they don't necessarily like to fight right off of the rip unless they have, like, a clear advantage they can exploit. They're more than happy to loot half of Sweaty, grab a car, and start the rotation. Like, we've seen that plenty of times. So I think unless one of those teams gets super aggressive, we'll probably just see a little bit of footsies and then a rotation out of Sweaty. That would be my guess if both of them end up in the same heat and then in the grand finals.
I mean, and then the team that we're talking about, trio, is so dominant. I mean, they had 6 games in the top 5. They had 21 plus 10-point games. It's just insane the amount of output that trio's 4ZR has. They did have a 0-point game once, so things can happen. But you know, it's just going to be interesting to see what unfolds in the heats.
Yeah, but Sancho, where are they now? We talked
That's
about we
what
hyped them up so much. I had them as my clear favorite. They're far and away the dogs. But Sancho, hey, let me know and let the viewers at home know. How about 4ZR, Nate, and Kezix been doing this week in round 3?
All right, so let me be the bad guy. Let me be the bearer of bad news. That trio that we've been hyping out, giving them premium gas, steam, whatever mode of transportation you like to ride on, electricity, they're not here. They did not make it out of opens. They kind of took a lackadaisical approach into that opens and messed around. They had about 5 games or so to kind of close 20 games just to get to the opens, and they decided not to. And now that just leaves us with a big old fat question mark with the, you know, that period just being ultra thick. That is what's going to go into the heats. But no questions here. We you know, this team just trio, Mongrel, Tayson, and Mitro, the hot and cold, the ultimate hot and cold. 7 victory royales, but every time they don't win, we're talking about placements of like 25 plus.
Yeah, and I think that's just generally the nature of what happens when you're landing. The main part of Stark is if you have it and you're able to win it, you win it very hard, and it gives you kind of a larger percentage of being able to convert in the late game. It gives you tons of options for being able to control the high ground, and then also just gives you priority rotations when it comes to these rifts around the map. But as we say that, the priority rotation's coming through, some AR bullets, and you know Micho doesn't want to eat any of those shots with only 5 builds and no excess shields. Instead, find some shockwaves. It might be the only time he's ungrateful to see shockwaves, because if he doesn't find any shields, he's not going to get a chance to use them. And, oh, look, our friends are back. That's Jaspe, Moraine, and Leneuf pressuring him on and out away as we're going to hop on over here. Hero Park, Outer World, Paco, Jachi, Wave Advise, trying to fight off some people around this old ghost base. One of my favorite, and I think the few hyper viable scavenger routes. I think you can make most scavenger routes work. This one works very, very, very well just because of the chest density, the rifts, and the amount of available material in the nearby area. Like some of those rocks you can hit, and literally I think they give you like 250 plus brick.
Paco had more sniper elims on day one himself, and that's total 4 than any other team. So
it's only because Thomas HD isn't here.
Yeah, that's what
Come
I was
on,
about to
Thomas
say.
didn't qualify this weekend. I'll give him his credit, but like Thomas guaranteed is good for like at least 6 by the time we're at this point. So we'll give him the second best sniper in EU.
And there it is, Thomas, Anas, and Flick, who are also qualified. And we're going to be seeing some big names going toe-to-toe in the heats as only the top 8 go through. If you don't make it in those heats, you have one last chance in the Wild Card Wednesday. And that is after competing in your heats. And one thing we got to bring up here is yesterday, our trios essentially competed for so many hours. They had 10 games in round 2, and they had 6 on top of that. So no doubt that break, that rest, that overnight stay definitely helping some of these trios out as you're seeing them a little bit more refreshed, a little bit of new blood in there. And we're speaking of new, there's that thermal fish, still so creepy to use. I find it very interesting to use as well. It's a great way to kind of see people who are bush campers. But so far, the 35 fish species, the only one that's been a big-time factor that we've seen in in-games of floppers. But one of the things we have to point out is the trick-or-treat candy, those other floppers out there like the jellyfish, the slurp barrels, all those things or the trios are kind of zone in on because it just allows them to hold on to the shields, allows them to hold on to the chug splashes. So look at this. Speaking of new things, we got a gumdrop in the inventory, Okoro here, which gives you ability to have them like a hop rock, which I really do like. I'm going to be interested to see, does he hold on to these going into the end game?
Not the gumdrop buttons. Don't drop the gumdrop buttons. But we'll see here if Koro, Bondig, and Nana can keep up their pace today. So far, not having their legs ripped off and thrown in the trash. Instead, making their way on the siege and reaching that gigantic form. We'll bring it all the way around with an Ant-Man reference as well. But trying to get some shots from the sky. You can see just some armor tags right now. So nothing necessarily converting over. They're going to want to be able to break through that shield and get some additional. Oh, he found it just at the last second. The replay caught up, but he snagged Lol Boom out of the sky. The Irishman again being unfortunate with catching those snipes. And they got a second one. So we talk about those teams who have to, and I mean literally have no other option. Even with series points from today, they wouldn't make it. They have to finish in the top 15. Bondik, Koro, and Nana making a push slowly their way up the leaderboard, Sancho.
And this is what you need, man. Baby steps. Eventually you start learning how to crawl, and then you start learning how to walk. Maybe you get to jog, but right now they're in a full sprint trying to get their way in that top 15. And now we're seeing another team that's been in a full sprint for a very long time in Hen Patrick. And they're looking at the names that are so far right next door. It is Stir6, iDrop, and Vettel, which I kind of feel like they're kind of trying to find a new home. I mean, I feel like they got pushed out of Lazy Lake. They got pushed out of their scavenger route at their Sentinel Graveyard. And now they're here in Slurpy Swamps. And now this is going to be an ending that first time we're seeing down in the southwest area of the Fortnite Island in the Slurpy Swamps. And I'm just seeing Deceptos, Patrick, and Hen. They kind of make these really spiral rotations, and they kind of find like a very calm way to get in and allow themselves to beef up their strength into the mid game, which is very vital considering that once you get to end game, the only way you're going to get those max resources in terms of heals, mats, is just by getting them off somebody else's body. So that is going to be a very important to see. How does Hen, Patrick, and Deceptos end up here? Will they hold on to a spot? And like you mentioned, there is still money involved. It's $67,000 up for grabs here today.
You can see right now, Refsguard, Stompy, and Scram just sneaking through the bushes on the backside here. The unfortunate trio rotating late out of the ruins. It was taken over. Midas seeking his revenge. But right now, Refsguard going to find a little bit of revenge. Picking up the Virtus Pro player there. Jamside going down. Refsguard playing for E11. Vitality Stompy also going forward on the side. Letwick hanging out on the back, just opting to throw some shots there from a safe distance, not wanting to necessarily close the gap, as Jamside will get converted on there. They'll steal the shockwaves, they'll steal whatever excess materials from there, and then eventually make their rotation out. And they're actually going to opt to Bouncer, Shockwave, but they did it really poorly, so Refsguard is now going to burn both of his shockwaves to then get in the river. And ultimately, yeah, you got a point there, but the fact that you burned a shockwave, 2 crash pads, and a bouncer to have to get it, and you're still taking storm damage,
it's all about diminishes and returns. It's all about, investing in yourself, making sure that stock game is strong. I'm sure Monster D-Face will have a lot to say about the stock game. So far, the stock of Refsguard and Stompy and Scram are kind of going down at the moment, considering they made a bad investment in that fight. Not enough return for a 1-point elim, and now we're seeing other fights breaking out here near the Slurp Factory here, and this is a kind of another thing that we've been seeing, these kind of existing tunnels having some strange box fighting tendencies, and it's going to be very tight and congested as Loft gets taken down right then and there, and Bondi, Koro, and Nana, we're talking about them going and moving forward slowly but surely, and that's going to be more confident elims that they're needing, and knowing that they could solidify their opportunity to get into the heats with a top 15 finish.
You know how they talk about that fight or flight response? And they talk about how, the cage, the corner dog always fights the hardest. That's what's happening right now. They came in today, and they were like, hey, we have everything to, we have absolutely everything to gain and nothing to lose. We should just be going and taking these fights. And right now, they're clawing their way up into contention, which is nuts to say, because I counted them out after this. I was like, nope, Left Eye's the only one who were able to do it. But all of a sudden, after back-to-back games where they're racking off eliminations and pushing up, they've got 30-plus points today. I believe they've nearly doubled their point total, even from yesterday already. So, I mean, just doing so incredibly well. But right now, Kumu trying to do well by himself, gets the conversion on 1 second crash pad to create a little bit of distance, trying to do it all by his lonesome, as we've seen so many EU trios fall down to.
And this is one of those teams that are currently sitting in the last place in the total leaderboard standings, but that doesn't mean there's no L's there. Making it this far is a victory in itself. Talk about the top 0.01% of the European region, and they're here to fight, and they're taking out someone who's already qualified. This is going to be a great way to build on in their professional careers. Kumo trying to get all by himself, the solo star, and no, again, the lobby pressure, too strong. The lobby focus could take out the best of the best, and Kumo gets taken out right then and there. But Trainhard survives that moment as Falconry and Yatsu have to breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that the lobby bailed them out.
Yeah, but not before he can bring a couple people down with him and at least inflicting damage in the form of resources. Now we're going to hop on board here. Milan, Queasy trying to get a rotation on the side here with Chapex bringing up the rear. You can see our previous game winners there, Giannis, Squeeze, and Andalex have a little bit of space towards the middle, but right above them, Hen, Patrick, and Deceptives continuing to try and open up that lead at the top of the leaderboard and grab a #1 spot heading into the heats.
We saw Mitro and Tayson alive still, not losing Mongrel. Saw Jaspace Trio still up. This is going to be an interesting finish here. Our first time we've seen of the day, Slurpy Swamps ending here. And this is going to be where these teams are going to go. And you've already seen Hen, Patrick, and they're having a little build-up here against Paco's trio. We're going to see some towers erect back and forth here, and it's all about that half in and half out. We saw a team of, I believe it was Giannis' team that we saw in the previous one, kind of overtake height with a very aggressive ramp push. So that's why you're still seeing these kind of battles and skirmishes going out there. Be interesting to see at the moment and see where, or is Hen's team, no elims. I'm trying to take a look if right now Storm Surge may be rearing its head very, very soon, considering that there's still a lot of healthy trios up, 25 left. Not yet into that placement doling out point. That's the top 17, Sundown.
Top 17 for placement in the Storm Surge that Sancho talks about will end up turning on when the 5th zone closes, so we'll get a warning after the 4th one closes. The threshold there is 50 players remaining. For those of you unfamiliar with Storm Surge, it does damage to the players who have done the least amount of damage to their opponents. So the most passive players, the ones who haven't been trading and engaging, get forced to create a little bit of action. This is to prevent just people from turtling all the way out and drive drives players to make some moves. So we might see that come into play, and that's why generally you'll see people looking for tags whenever they can.
And at the same time, I feel like the EU region has the ability to toe that line so gracefully. We've seen them be able to just on the brink of being 50 or 30 HP above, and they get that vital elimination in a very safe way. And if you VOD review a lot of our top trios, and if you out there aspiring to be a top competitor player, look at how the pros kind of navigate this. And it's just developed like a quarterback for the NFL, the American football. A quarterback sometimes has an internal clock, and they know when the rush is happening. So our players here can feel that surge rush, and they know exactly when to kind of activate and be a little bit more aggressive, as aggression is kind of going up in the Elam feed. Wolfies went down. Giannis went down. So some new names taking out the top of the board here, Sundown, as we're on board here with Nakos, Clement, and Floki. And like I mentioned before, has that ability to, you know, kind of all of a sudden blow up and microwave up and have a big pop-off game. Will it be this game right here, right now?
And we've seen him be able to execute in a number of different ways, but let's bring the analogy back to real football, aka soccer, for all of you filthy Americans out there. I equated it a lot more to almost being a center back, and depending on how you want to play your defensive line, because I think that's a little bit more familiar for Fortnite, where if you have your in-game leader, that center back is calling for that high line or the offsides trap, it's where you're playing really aggressively and trying to stay right in line with that player who's you're trying to take advantage of. Like, if you make the decision and the call at the right moment, yes, you can go. What you see with a lot of these other trios is it tends to be a little bit more of kind of a lax line where they're sitting back, they're trying to find the rotations, they're taking peeks and they're taking tackles when they get the opportunity to, and looking for those picks rather than going all the way out, because the return on investment and the risk versus reward is much higher by just staying in the match, finding your tags and getting eliminations that way, rather than diving into boxes or trying to pull up that line and letting in that number 10 into the back.
There you go, inside the mind of Sundown. Of course, Sundown did play soccer competitively at a high placement, but now it's going to be a big question. Can Analyx, Giannis, and Xweez figure out this max pool rotation? Look at the inventory, though, folks. They got a bouncer and a shockwave. You expect the IGL, the in-game leader of this trio, to set up a max mega shockwave bounce, and let's see if they do take the time that Sundown always refers to kind of make sure they get a strong trajectory, because things can go awry and you could get sent in multiple directions, and as long as you take the time, you could kind of send a trio just kind of like in the right direction or the one direction, as they do pick up a to-go plate Elim right then and there. But now they're gonna have to make a move.
And it wasn't to go play, it was more of a takeout play as they take out Patrick, and that is a huge takeout that they're getting there. Give it all the General Tso's. Give me fried rice on the side, extra crab rangoons, because they got everything. The entire no, Deceptos actually was able to turn it around. Patrick will finally get cleaned up there, so it's just Deceptos who's trying to get it going through. But right now, you can see Andelek sitting on 4 eliminations. Janice, plenty of room on the side. But again, we've talked about Henninko and how they've been so very good when they don't get caught right on the outside of zone. That's what happened there. And also missing out on placement points. We saw the shambles they went through early on. Mitro and Tayson going down in 19th. They will fall. Legendary will also get ticked over, as now placement points will come through. Storm Surge turns off. We have our top 40 in the top half of the competition.
And at the top, it is Marine, Jasper, and Lunef, who have been combating Mongrel's trio at Stark Industries. But we are now seeing one of the big-time stars here in the FNCS trio, Hen, literally becoming a legend in front of our eyes, representing that Becoming Legends sport organization. And now Deceptos, Patrick here, they're looking good here, so now they're looking good.
Deceptos literally I'm pretty sure he just dropped Hen in Epic Shotgun. I think he took the uncommon one, and Hen took the Epic Shotgun. You can see Hen literally, he has the flopper, he has the Epic Shotgun. When we talk about having faith in your teammates and having one who's super clutch, yes, we saw Patrick go down, but Hen and Deceptus were able to come up huge. These two have been the ones who have elevated their gameplay specifically this weekend. Hen had a fantastic week too as well, but this weekend, Hen has been the star of the show, and right now, he's looking to add another season to it as he's trying to find some AR shots on the backside of the zone, and this is when he generally does his best work.
Yeah, taking a look here, it's the mat situation that may get them canceled here right now. But what a great like teamwork play right there. That's what it's all about. But we're seeing some strong teamwork play at top for a brief moment here. Only one flopper, it connects. Hen is still up, Deceptos is still up, and they're gonna have a crazy battle in the mid ground, and they were able to get some hard mats here, but can they survive the chaos that's unfolding? You have the mid ground that's being so stacked, and the high ground is a strong trio, but look at it, they're really high. They're gonna have to find a way down to kind of keep this pressure. If not, they're gonna have to lose height. But the story is the low ground, and we've been seeing this trio right here, iDrop, Vettel, Stir6, fight hip to hip and be such a very strong low ground trio, just like the Exit boys in NA East.
And Henenko will get taken out in 13th, but up on the high ground was the team who was able to force out Mitro, Mongrel, and Tayson. They were going to be able to put plenty of pressure on the rest of the lobby, but you can also see my prediction still being able to go through Nikos, Clement, and Floki, picking up some eliminations on the opposite side of this zone as we see Stursik executing a really good side tarp. I don't necessarily know if he needs the tarp on the outside to his right. There's no zone pulling there, but it's good in case the 8th zone does end up going that direction, and right as I say that, the zone will go off on that side. But now, Jaspe, Moraine, and Lenouf, do they have enough material to maintain the high ground as Jerky's going up on the backside? So we have iDrop in the bottom right-hand corner. Right now you can see in the top right, trying to do whatever he can, going up on the high ground, getting some pressure on the top, not quite able to find the shots yet. Will connect as his teammate is ending up going down, but he finds a huge shot. That's Lenouf being taken down there, and he will be able to get the conversion. Second shockwave, keeping him back into the zone right now.
And that is Fremont cooking up on that top right, but iDrop is doing so well down below with this trio. We got a full trio down below doing so much damage and getting elims, racking them up. They have 7 elims right now as we're in a top 7 situation, and we're showing you how hard it is to hold height as iDrop gets an elim and a confirmation on ZQ. So ZQ, the ultimate rejection, the swatter, was getting taken out, and that's a big time elim considering that ZQ could heat up all of a sudden out of nowhere. But Fremont is the solo story that we're watching at the moment. Seventor and Link are gone. Can Fremont have a clutch performance as this trio is having a pop-off game in itself?
Yeah, and Captain Clutch, can he do it? Indeed, you see Crashpad out from the high ground, but not sure to what effect. They simply seem to just be sending themselves up for the sake of going up, maybe out of builds and not able to go. And you can see Fremont is all of a sudden on high ground by himself, so a little bit of patience. And now the other 2 trios are fighting out in the low ground, but we talked about just how freaking important getting to the top 3 is and the extra placement points. And right now, Fremont out of builds. He says no problem, drops down, finds Vettel. And the thing is, once you find the trio who's hip to hip, and once they're broken, it's so easy. He uses the shockwave to send himself up. He throws the second one to make sure the player goes out, and now it's him against the world, and he says no problem. He wants the 8th elimination. Floki trying to put it together and to bring it back, but it's going to take a miracle to end the run of Captain Clutch, aka user 2C3ED112A3. That's Fremont doing it for his entire team. Crashpad sending him up, but now all of a sudden, he's lost the priority, but we know Floki has no HP, doesn't have the HP lead, gonna get ticked down there, and Fremont eventually clutches that one out to take it over with 11 eliminations.
Oh my goodness.